Welcome, welcome, welcome back to Flip the Script with Vic. I am so excited this morning. This conversation is going to be real and deep and raw. And that's really what I want the podcast to be about moving forward, less about me and more about we. So I'm so excited. My guest this morning, Misty McCray, is one of my favorite humans on the planet, but she also has such a beautiful story of redemption and really, I believe is such an inspiration to show you that your circumstances don't have to define you, that where you are at any current moment can change, and that miracles can happen. And yeah, you've been through so much, Misty. I don't want to like take the thunder. I want you to speak for yourself, but I'm really grateful that you're sharing your story here and that this is really the first time that you're getting to vocalize it. So it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria.
I see you.
I feel like I'm being reborn in this moment.
You are.
So I just want to thank you, first of all, for giving me the space in so many ways. You have ignited and reminded me that I have dreams and just that there's more to life than being alone with my child and being a mother and just for the last almost well for 3 years now I've been home and I in a lot of ways just feel like I had lost any sense or hope of anything more. And not that being a mother isn't enough, because now being one, I realize how important it is. And many times in these last 3 years, I have forgotten. And I keep coming back home to what's important. And it is my child and his well being, but it's also my well being.
Mm. I just got full chills because it's true. You can't pour from an empty cup. And also, we pass on our wounds to our children. And I know you know that deeply. And you have done the work to not pass things on to your child. And I would love to talk more about that because it's work and it's fucking hard. And I think it's really scary for a lot of people, but there is so much freedom and light on the other side when you let yourself like be in the muck and in the messiness. Like I think you're such a queen of transformation and alchemization because you're not afraid to go there.
Yeah, I feel like I live in the cocoon more than any place. Sometimes I'm like, all right, so source, can I get out of the cocoon already? And then I get like 3 days of fluttering, and then I'm like right back in there again or crawling on the ground, a little furry caterpillar. And I used to think there was a time when I had my first real awakening, which we can talk about. I don't want to get into it just yet, but I had my first awakening and at 24 years old, and I was innocent in my faith and I had nothing but faith. And I just remember that at that time I thought, I'm going to heal or get it right, whatever that means. And from that point forward, I'll be good.
Right, it's all done. I'm good, thanks.
And then I got so far, and then that didn't ever end. And it just kept going. And it was like cyclical and spirals and revisiting and new things to accomplish, acquire, learn, dig in, do, be, heal, like remember all of that. And it's been now 20 years since August 2005 is when my first awakening was. So we're coming up on a 20-year anniversary of
Holy
me just,
shit. I didn't
yeah,
realize like that's powerful. That
yeah,
cycle. Like,
yeah.
holy cow.
And so there's cycles within the cycle for sure. But one of my messages that I always want to share with people that are newer to the scene of, awakening or arriving is that it doesn't stop. It never ends. And there's also a lot of beauty in that. But it also doesn't mean, and this is something that I've learned, I have dissected myself, pulled myself apart so many times, and I still sometimes have a tendency to do that, as if there's something to fix.
Mm.
And I always viewed myself early in my years of awakening and healing that something was broken, that I was broken. And I still sometimes have to remind myself
We
that
all
I'm
do.
not. There's always something more. And then because of history or conditioning, trauma, something I've always done well and maybe too much is radical responsibility. So I've also internalized, where it's always my fault or it's always something I can do. And it's true. It's true. But I think more than anything, what I've learned is how we go about that, like in our
Mhm.
hearts, our intentions. I used to exercise and work out. I had gained weight and I wanted to lose the weight so much. I'd always been around the 130, 120, 130 pounds. And I'd gotten up to 170 through a really hard time. And then I'd finally lost to 150. And I was like really wanting to nudge. And for a solid year, I was 151, 151. And I realized that it was the shame is what it
Was
was
holding
the
on to.
exterior of my shame. It was showing up on the outside of me as if something was wrong with me. And I just wailed to God, like, please help me, And anyway, one day and I was working out a lot then. On my off day, I would run 5 miles. That was like when I did nothing. And I was doing everything under the sun, working out, every single day of the week and hours a day. And why can't I lose this weight? Why can't I lose this weight? And my body was breaking down. And I finally did a yoga class. And I had come from a very religious background. And especially from my first awakening, it was very religious and innocent, but I became very legalistic. And it was just another way to beat myself up and pick myself apart. And I finally realized that when I sat down and did yoga, like I tuned into something deeper than what I had ever known before. And I realized that I was working out because I wasn't loving myself. It was
Mm.
never about me loving myself. It was about me trying to shape myself into something that I wanted to be or thought I should be. And that was when I came home in a new way for the first time. And I stopped running so much. I stopped doing so much to love myself. I learned if I'm going to exercise, I want to do it because I love myself. I want better health. I want to eat better because I love myself, not because I'm trying to make myself something else
Mhm.
in a very self-hatred, not good enough kind of way.
And so many women, I think, do that. This is a really important conversation because I always say you have to love yourself enough to change. You can hate yourself through the change, absolutely, but it's going to be miserable. And then your habits probably aren't going to stick. You're going to send yourself into another, shame spiral. But our bodies are so intelligent and they remember everything. And they remember even the minute ways that we talk to ourselves and we treat ourselves. And absolutely, I have had that same experience where I was carrying extra weight and I couldn't lose it. It's so funny. It was almost that exact same, like after having my second child, I couldn't get below 150. I like couldn't do it. And it's only really within the last 6 months maybe that I've been able to do it. And my child is 3. Okay. Like it's been a while. But it was that exact same, like I was carrying a lot of inflammation in my body. I was carrying a lot of shame, grief, trauma, like all of it. And I had a really big solar plexus release. And since then, the weight has come off. And people, I think, don't always correlate your emotions and your energy to like physical energy that you're carrying on your body,
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge shift, I think, for most women because, you know, we grew up in the same kind of time, right? Like skinny is good, skinny is
Mm-hmm.
in, not strong, not to support myself to be healthy. So, I think for women that are wanting to feel better in their bodies, like do the emotional work, right? Like start to go inward and start to ask why you're carrying this stuff because a lot of it isn't ours, but some of it is. And some of
Mm-hmm.
it is so ingrained from childhood that we don't even know it's there. I would love to speak more kind of about some of the things in your childhood and in your early years. I know that were so formative for you, especially your incarceration story, because I think anyone that meets you now, I mean, I know the second you said it, I was flabbergasted. I was like, no way. This woman? Like, absolutely not. Because you're so full of life and you're so vivacious and you have grown so much since that time. But I would love for you to talk more about that because I think, like you said, that first kind of awakening was very different from this awakening that you are now, or that you're in now, I should say. And I would love to hear maybe some of those differences because I think the differences come back to the body, right? And that embodiment of your truth and of love, essentially.
Ah, so my childhood was just very, I wanted to just make it light and be like dysfunctional. And I know for sure that people have experienced worse than I, but
Hey,
it
but
was
that
just
doesn't
a,
negate what you went
I
through,
know,
you know?
I know, I know, I know. But my early years were very inconsistent. When I was 13, I counted that I'd lived in 100 different homes. And I was with my mom, but she and her marital issues. And so it was a constant like, wake me up. Hey, Misty, let's get out of here. We got to go. Your stepdaddy's going to be home in 30 minutes, And the things that I treasured and that I loved, like I collected porcelain dolls, or, even early on, like I worked and bought my own furniture for my bedroom because I wanted a specific kind. I wanted cherry wood and I wanted it to be a certain way. And then, in a blink of an eye with no warning, it was, we got to go. Mom was having a bad day. So I already knew that I was gonna, I was gonna suffer that. And I've certainly healed a lot since then. But by the time I was in my teenage years, I was seeking whatever fun or escape was unconsciously. And so I ended up using drugs and being around people and things that as a little girl, I always said I would never do those things. I would never, never do those things. It wasn't my path. And I always believed something really great, something beautiful for myself. And like, I always had this great connection with God, and there were no words to describe it or religious or box or anything to put it in. I just knew God. And anyway, so I ended up, hanging out with some, pretty intense drug lords, if you will, or anyway, so I met one guy and he was like, "Hey, let me take you to meet my guy because you're so cool. Like everybody needs to know who you are." And so I end up getting like on the top of the chain of drug pushers. And I met one guy and he one day put a gun to my head and asked me, "I'm going to ask you about something. You better not lie to me." And I said, "Okay." And so he asked me about some money that had gotten stolen that I knew nothing about. And I said, "Well, I wasn't lying to you then. I'm not lying to you now, and I used some other choice of words." And he was like, "Beep, you got some balls." And I was like, I mean, I realize now maybe I had balls, but maybe I just didn't care about living. Right. And at that point, he was like, "All right, well, you're my ride or die then." And I thought that was thrilling. So let's go. And it gave me something to do. Anyway, so that ended up in an arrest, as you can imagine. And to shorten the story, is at 24, I got arrested looking at a life sentence. And I just thought, well, I'll just get a bond like I did with the state and it'll all be okay. And the day that the house was surrounded and they came to get me at the time, I thought it was for sure to get my boyfriend because I had been away from everybody and everything for 3 years. I had tried to get my life different. And so it was a big investigation that I knew nothing about. And when they picked me up that day and I realized it was me they were taking in, there was some kind of like, I had the biggest, puffiest chest, like as if a weight had been lifted from me. Like I knew this was exactly what I had prayed for. A couple months before that, I had prayed and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is not the life that I want. Please help me. And I surrendered and I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know what surrendering meant. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so that day when I got arrested, I was like, this is what is perfectly divine timing interruption of whatever I have going on. This is going to be my new life. Thinking, of course, that I would just get out and things would be different. 3 days into my incarceration, a lady by the name of Hope came and she brought me an envelope, and she was like a religious person, incarcerated person, like in a county jail with like a dress on. And she
Oh,
said,
so
my
but
pastor wanted,
she was in jail with you?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was crazy how diverse it can be. But anyway, so she brings me this piece of paper and she says, this envelope, and she says, my pastor gave me this and I feel like it's for you. And I was like, okay. And I could just feel the power of what was in this. And so I opened it up and it came from Malachi 3:3 from the Bible. And it's, he sits as a refiner and a purifier of silver. And some women were in a Bible study curious about what this meant. And so one woman went to watch a silversmith at work and she watched him and he put, I'm shortening the story, but she said she watched him to put a piece of silver over the fire where the flames were the hottest, to burn away our impurities. And she said she thought about God holding us in such a hot spot. And of course, I thought about myself. And then so she asked the man, well, how do you know that when the silver is fully refined? And he said, oh, that's easy when I see my image in it. And so, like whatever you're going through, just know that God's favor is on you and all is well. And I held on to that. And I knew that was what God was speaking directly to my heart, which was, and at that time, of course, I only knew Jesus and Christianity. And anyway, so I held on to that. Like my timing was in God's hands. And um, when I was the image of God, that I would be out of that situation. And then it took 3 years before I was sentenced. So for 3 years, I didn't know if I would spend the rest of my life in prison
Yeah.
or not.
Wow. Misty, I mean, I knew you were extraordinary, but wow. I'm just sitting here reminded and a little frustrated that women have to be brought so low to come back to who we are. Because I feel like sometimes so many of us have to have this big thing happen. You had to be incarcerated. I had to have miscarriages. And obviously they're very different. But it was that same feeling of surrender, of like, I don't know what to do. So come here, help me, universe, God, whatever you are. And then for you to have such faith and trust is huge, truly, because I I don't know many other women, myself included, that would have been able to hold on to that hope in that situation, would have been able to hold on to that divine connection. Because so many of us, when things like that happen, it's easy for us to become the victim. You could have totally been like, oh, this is all on my boyfriend. Like, this wasn't even me. And to your point of radical responsibility, I think more people should follow that tenet. That's one of the Burning Man tenets actually that I learned. And I think the world would be a much better place if more of us could be radically responsible for our emotions and our actions and our feelings. And so, you waited the 3 years for the sentencing, and I'm sure most people listening don't even. Just hearing your words makes me realize how fucked up like the criminal justice system is.
Totally.
Like for 3 years, that you're just like, I don't know, like no clue, like what the fact that that could be done to people
Yeah.
is like infuriating. What
Yeah.
did you, I mean, every day were you kind of like trying to keep a routine to keep yourself
Yes.
sane? Okay.
Yeah. I knew this was an opportunity for me to live. This was not a death sentence. This was a life sentence.
Ooh,
Every
say that. Wait,
day.
wait, say that again though. I like
This is
that.
not a death sentence. This is a life sentence. And I had to decide without knowing what my future would be, what my day would be. That's all I had was that day. And I was in a county jail. I was very fortunate in a lot of ways. In comparison, I ended up in a small jail that it was kind of cozy in comparison to some of like I was in transit several times and I was in other places. And I'm so glad I didn't spend 3 years at some of those places. But I got to go outside 3 times a week, most weeks for 2 hours. And even though it was just concrete, it was also fresh air, it was sunlight. I could see the sky. I remember a little dandelion was growing in between the cracks. And I was like, oh my God, there's hope. You know, it's like even the dandelion growing in the middle of a crack of all of this concrete, like, but I just saw hope everywhere. And so I just made it my business to get up every single day and I would not let anybody else clean. It was my job. It was the thing. So every morning they would come in and they would clank, clank really loud and like bring this
I was like,
bucket
is
in.
it like Orange is the New Black? I mean,
It
I'm sure that's what
is.
people are
It
thinking. Yeah.
is. The book actually came out when I was in prison and people were reading it. And I was like, what in the hell is wrong with you people? We're already living this, you know?
You're like, I don't
But
need
any,
to read this. It's
like,
happening
just
right
look
now.
around. What are you doing? But anyway, it would come in, they would come in with a mop bucket, clank, clank, really loud. And I would just very happily get up, go get it. I would clean the whole unit whenever anybody came in that was new. And, you know, it happened daily. And sometimes the same person came in. I think there was one lady that came in like 16 times while I was there, you know, and I just wanted to be so mad because I never got the opportunity to leave and come back. Anyway, and when the people would come in the door, I would greet them. I would save cups and things like because we had paper cups from like when we would get store. So I would clean them and save them. And like when the new people would come in, I'd be like, okay, so like I would give them a little house tour. It was really small, but and I also was kind of like, these are the rules. Like this is kind of how I run things. I like live here all the time. You're probably gonna leave very soon. I'd appreciate it if you like, you know, don't
Yeah.
stick your hand in the ice. Like you can do it this way. I'll show you how, you know, and I would save extra things. Like I was the commissary. I mean, oh my God, what's the word? Not commissary. I'll think of it in a second when you're not supposed to have it. Contraband.
Contraband. Yeah,
I was
because
the
also I was like, wait,
contraband
contraband.
queen. Okay, quick fun story.
No,
I'll
but wait,
say.
because now I want to ask, because I'm sure everyone wants to know, like, how you even get contraband in, or like how you
Well,
hold
anything is
it, or
contraband that you're not really allowed to have.
which is probably everything, right?
Which is everything.
Yeah.
Like you're allowed to have like one toothbrush, like one stick of, you know, like you're only supposed to have like these certain things. And of course, I would save them all for all the new people when they would come in. I wanted them to feel at home and like they were my sisters, you know, like this is my life. This is my life and I want it to be well. And so it mattered how I treated people and it mattered I'm here. Why not do it? Like it was, you know, it gave me a reason to give, to live, to do. And just a quick fun story is we made mascara out of toothpaste and ink. And so I would get up and then I learned how to do the threading in prison.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna have
So,
to thread my eyebrows for me.
right. So, like, everybody would come in and I would hook them up if they were, you know, wanting to feel pretty that day or they'd been in a while and they've got hairs, you know, in places
Oh
they
yeah.
don't want. And I'm like, here you go. Let me hook you up. And
You were a
so,
mom
anyway, I
even
made the
then,
best of it.
Misty. Like
What's that?
you were a mom even then. Like you
Yeah.
were nurturing and
Yeah.
mothering everyone. Like oh, you're extraordinary. I really hope you know that because not everyone would have acted that way in that situation at all. And I really want you to to hold that because you're special. Like truly, I'm amazed at you because I don't think I would have been that nice to everybody else. I probably would have been the absolute bitch that was like, get out of my fucking space. Like, stay away from me. Like, I'm not saving you shit. Like, so, you're in there 3 years waiting for the sentencing. How long did you spend in entirety? And then, I know things shifted completely, once you got out, like the world had changed. So
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
talk to me through that of like, what was it like coming out and how had your faith maybe shifted? Um, yeah, because I know it was very different for you.
So I went fully trusting that everything was working out for me. And let me just say that every day, I mean, I certainly spiraled at times and what was going to happen to me and just absolutely having no control. So there was plenty of that, like where there were days I always got up and did the cleaning, but then there were also days that I just, laid in the bed and prayed. I fast, all these things. And so I was finally sentenced to 9 years with 5 years probation, which was like, I came out of there shouting. People thought I was crazy because I was like so happy about getting 9 years, but I was like, are you kidding me? I could have spent my life here. So ended up in FCI Tallahassee. And while I was there, I had an option to do my AA degree, but I don't follow the script very well. Never have. I'm quite rebellious. And there were classes within that I just wasn't interested in. So I was like, I don't care about your AA. But I did get this business management degree, and it was all about business and from Tallahassee Community College while I was there. And, I started training and everything that every inmate, was good at. And I started sharing my story with juveniles from Tallahassee that would either come into the prison or we would meet them at the Red Cross, and I would share my story. And anyway, getting out was probably one of the scariest days of my life. People were like, "Yay, you're getting out of prison," and celebrating. And it was absolutely the scariest thing. I was walking into a new world with a new person that had been with me through my incarceration, but I knew this wasn't like the kind of relationship that was. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew that I had prayed, and everything in my heart told me. I knew for sure that this was where I needed to go. And when I got out, I just remember I was 32 years old. I was 24 when I went in. I didn't know I'm in a big city now, and I come from a small town. And just navigating with a monitor on my leg, like getting back and forth to work, and just really not wanting people to see this monitor on my leg, working in a very, like in the mall, in a public place. And
Because how did people treat you? Did you feel like you were treated very differently than you were before or kind of the same?
I think I was so high on life, and I shared my story with people. So I worked in a kiosk, and I actually had people that would come and sit and wait their turn to talk with me. Like it was the greatest thing in the world. And but like things that really got me, like really like a lot of anxiety was like when I would go and get gas and then I would pay for the car. I didn't know if I was supposed to hand the card to someone or if there was a machine to put it in, or like I didn't know how to operate things. When I went in, there was no smartphones. People were still using pagers. Like it was such, and then within myself, I thought that people were gonna know, or people were gonna think I was stupid, or
Like they would just like
because
smell
like,
it on you and be like,
yeah,
"Oh,
they're just gonna know it.
yeah."
I realize now it was all of my own,
Of course. Of
of
course.
course, of course, but man, and then I had no emotional support, and I didn't come from emotional support at home, so it was really challenging for me. I feel like in a sense, again, really got me a long way. And then at some point, I ended up more in my head and trying to figure it all out myself, and not good enough. and in survival mode and not knowing what to do with all these emotions. And I have recently come full circle.
I know. Let's talk more about that because when you and I met, so Misty and I met at this beautiful women's circle here in Georgia, and I just knew, I think the theme of the circle was self-love, and we all kind of went around and talked about like what self-love was to us or some practices that we had, and Misty had her beautiful son with her, and I felt such a kindred spirit in you because you wanted that space for yourself, but then you were also trying to tend to your son. And you just had such a bright smile and such a presence. And you could laugh at yourself and share openly. And you were kind of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm here, And like, I just really resonated with that because you were so real. And I just knew that we needed to connect in some way. And since then, when was that? A year ago, 2 years ago? I don't even know now. But since then, I feel like I have watched you blossom even more because you've really leaned into that inward world, really trying to figure yourself out, really trying to help yourself. And I know that journey hasn't been easy for you. What was the hardest, transitioning obviously from prison to normal life? Was it as hard or harder to transition into motherhood?
Oh my God. Motherhood has rocked my world. Like, unbelievably. I take back everything bad or negative I ever said about a mother. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And for every mother or every child of a mother listening to this, I love you. You're doing great. Keep going.
Isn't that the truth?
Um, so I avoided motherhood. I was not doing it in this life. I absolutely wasn't doing it. And I always said, God, if I don't want to have a kid unless I am mentally, spiritually, socially, financially, like relation, like everything, I need to be good before I ever have a kid because I never wanted to repeat the patterns that I had worked so hard at enduring and overcoming. And so I started doing plant medicines,
My fave,
ended up in Peru. Ended up in Peru, and myself and my husband did quite a bit of combo. And to make a long story shorter, getting to the point here is I got pregnant. One of the side effects of combo is fertility.
Really? Well, I guess
Yeah.
because it's so purifying. It's like pulling all the stuff out of your body that may be like messing with that.
So
So, okay.
now I think, yeah, now I think the whole reason I even went to Peru anyway is because God was like, all right, you're ready, and I still say God, and so much of my history was the singular God.
Mhm.
I'm now learning a lot more and leaning into goddess and some other things, but all of this was still just, and it's cool. Anyway, just a
No, but
side note.
I actually really love that you said that because and this is a little sidebar, guys, but I feel like that word can be really triggering to people. And when I came into my spirituality, I wouldn't say it. I refused for a long time. I just said universe. And now I've
Hmm.
come to realize like it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
God, goddess,
Hmm.
universe,
Hmm.
source, like whatever you want to call it, our human brain wants to label it and give
Yeah.
it a name, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah. I've learned through all of like these 20 years of healing, just the many faces,
Hmm?
the many books, like God, source, universe, creator is so big. It's anyway, I'm very free with whatever people want to refer to it as, and I hope others are as understanding anyway.
But
Just
so God, goddess, universe, whatever you want to call it, like gave you this divine mission and said, okay, it's time to be a mom.
yeah, so I got pregnant and my husband and I had just went through the hugest, rockiest moment. And we were actually talking about separating. And then I got pregnant. And then it all that just went away. And it was just, baby, we're in love, the whole, the love that a child brings. And so I was 40, had him at 41, now 44. And I worked really hard on reparenting myself just before I got pregnant, like being my own mother, or just um, the higher the mother and the father, and reparenting myself within myself, and just so many things, just learning how to love myself in new ways, being tender with myself. And I'm forever probably going to be doing that, but it was really good for me to have done that prior to having a child. And now I'm getting to exercise all those things, like gentle parenting. And maybe when I've mostly been alone on the journey of motherhood and not having healthy support or any, because if it's not healthy, I'm not doing it. And I've been stretched farther than I ever thought that I could. And of course, when you love a being and you're willing so much to continue to show up in spite of what you are internally feeling and experiencing. I'm mothering him and mothering myself at the same time, and he takes naps, and like all I do is take that hour to anything I can to replenish, just to get through the rest of the parts of the day. And it's like the iPad has become the only, like childcare that we've had. And so like that was something I was never going to do. And so I'm selective about what he watches, but oh my God, please,
I said the
like,
same thing.
yeah,
Same thing. I was like, my
yeah,
kids will never. And it's a lot less, I think, than some other people, but same. I mean, some days it's like, I got to get something done. I need to take a
yep.
moment for myself. Like, I'm gonna plop you in front of the TV. And, I'm glad you brought this up also because that mom guilt is so real. And
Mhm.
the taking the time for ourselves. Like, actually, my husband's gonna take the kids this weekend so that I have some time to myself. I couldn't even ask him, Misty. We had like a huge fight, and finally after the fight, I was like, I want to ask you this, but I feel like a terrible fucking mom for asking
Mhm.
you to take the
Mhm.
kids so that I can have some space and time.
Mhm.
And that was I mean, just huge for me to even just say that out loud that like I felt really guilty and like a
Mhm.
really bad mom. And then I had to stop and be like, no, because now I'm going to actually get the work done that I need to get done,
Mhm.
replenish myself, and come back and be a happy mom and not a snippy mom, and not taking out my anger and my frustration on them because I haven't had the time to pour into myself.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of women that are in wounded mother, and myself included. When the kids were young, and still some days, right? Because I don't think we had really good examples of healed mothers,
Mhm.
unfortunately, and so it's like we're trying to be that healed example. But then we have all this stuff on the internet telling us like how to do it, that we're doing it wrong, that we need to be doing it more. It's like we can't fucking win, I feel like.
Yeah, some days I reel surf, and like my Instagram is full of parenting, mom, be the best human to your children ever. And so I just, some days I'll go through, or specific people that I know, like, and trust in that arena. And some days it feels like inspiration and good remembering. And then other days I feel like I'm just putting myself on the chopping block. And
You're
then,
just being a masochist, being like, what are all the things
yes,
I'm not
yes.
doing?
And so more and more I've just gotten, I'm like, okay, look, I've got a handle on this mother thing, and I have a pretty good relationship with my kid. Um, I think I'm gonna just trust myself.
Yes.
It takes some work, but like I'm really leaning into trusting myself. And like one of the things that you touched on earlier is the embodiment. And that's really where I'm at right now, is I'm actually realizing how much my nervous system has run the show, my wounded child has run the show, exhaustion, and these things that have worn me over the years of motherhood. Um, I realize that I am just not trusting myself.
Mhm.
I have been in such a nervous place that I didn't even know, like, when do I connect? How do I connect? I felt so disassociated with my own body and my own truth in some ways. And so it's like, instead of relying on myself to know the truth or to know what I need, I'm outsourcing that. And I was witnessing, even calling my trusted girlfriends who are bright, beautiful, intelligent, being in these wonderful containers like the one with you is been so uplifting and comforting. And also, I realize like where the pendulum has swung too far and I'm relying on outside myself. And so I'm currently in a place of pulling that inward and just that time that, my son is asleep or he's now 2 days of preschool. I am spending 45 minutes just laying there and just being with my body,
Oh my God, I
being
love
with what
that.
comes up. Just
I love that. We don't do that enough. We don't just like let ourselves sit in a dark room or sit in bed and just check in with ourselves. Like that's huge.
there's so much to do and we're never going to get it done. I'm telling you, the dishes can wait. The dishes can wait. 3 days they can wait. I've never, like, I was the military, get it all done, no dishes in the sink at night before you go to bed, absolutely not doing it. And now, what's priority? Well, right now, my body's wisdom and connecting with myself so that I can tune in when I need it and not wait until there's some big thing that I have to decide and I can't even connect with myself because I've been such the doer and such a ball of nerves and overworking and wanting to fulfill my dreams. Like, sure, but I was the person, this is something really big for me recently, is I realized that I have waited, I put myself off until I can have a 2 or 3 hour window with myself on the weekend when my husband can take the baby so that I can have 3 hours with myself and so that I can just like, but like, what do I even do when I get there? And, I'm so overwhelmed by then. And it's like, I realize that I have not just been allowing myself those 10-minute pockets of time. Like, and, it's like, why am I not refilling my cup all throughout my days? And I realized just the other day that I was literally like conscious that in this moment right now, I could do something replenishing for myself, but I refused to do it.
Mhm.
And I realized it come from a place of unworthiness. So I
Mm.
actually ended up doing it, not in that moment, but I lay down with myself and just spent a few minutes and granted myself what I deserved and what I needed just to be still and to listen. And I realized like a lot of unworthiness had come up for me. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of this is your fault. So,
God, I love you so much. It's like you're making me work on my shit. Damn it.
right. So taking radical responsibility here, just got to blame a little bit on you for showing up in
Totally
my life.
fine. Totally fine. I'll take it. I'll hold it.
So when we met, and I just like same, like something about you is you are just incredibly real. When I met you, there was no like better than, ooh, look at me, I'm so amazing. Like you were so like just down to earth and chill. When I found out that you were doing all the things you're doing, I was like blown away because there was no energy about you sitting in that room that was like anything more than just you. Like you weren't trying to show up as something else. And anyway, I felt so at home with you. And then when I started with you, which is where I'm blaming you here, is answering my prayers, the universe, like just showing up in the form of Victoria. And, like I have these, callings and I'm saying, God, Goddess, hear me, see me, what do I do? And I meet you and I went through the Akashic records with you, Akashic Awakening. And that was a really beautiful exploration for me to remember and to come home to the connection, to remember that the information I had been receiving but not trusting was authentic. Like when I went through that with you, I realized like tapping into Akashic Records was it's the same voices, it's the same information. Like I was already attuned, but I was discrediting it. Like something was wrong with my connection.
Mhm.
And so that was beautiful. And then now since Queen of Hearts, like I literally had a huge death before I signed up to the Queen of Hearts. And I was seeing this online, all of your beautiful posts about this, and it was just resonating so big. And I didn't have a business. I was deep in the trenches of motherhood in the most beautiful, challenging ways. And like I said in the beginning, like had lost hope for anything more for myself and like lost complete touch with it. And so it worked out that I ended up in Queen of Hearts. Thank you, Victoria. And it really started awakening something in me. And I remembered. I remembered. So, what came to me this morning before our call was really big, really big. Is I walked outside this morning and I was just looking at Mama Gaia and just giving thanks. And things have been really, really challenging lately in my life. And it's that cocoon. And I'm like, what? Oh my God. Like, I mean, shouldn't this have eased up by now? Why is life still so hard? And it's just everything is piling up right now. And I went outside and I was just like giving thanks. And um, I had seen a post from a lady that I was in prison with. And she's really showing up, like, and I'm so proud of her. And I've just started seeing her stuff recently. I even sent her a message and I was like, you're so inspiring. So then I had walked outside after that and I was just like giving thanks to God. And I remembered when I was incarcerated, there were so many things that dropped into my soul that are evergreen. And one of the things that I remembered this morning is God said, if you will open your mouth, I will fill it. And so, like going through the Queen of Hearts with you and just learning more about myself, and oh my gosh, how much I have learned. It's crazy how much I learned about myself and just putting things into perspective. But it was this morning that it really struck me because I've been feeling insignificant. I've been feeling like, who do I think I am? And
Badass is who you are.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes on my best days, right? I say that to myself, but I've been really worn lately. And then I've got this big dream now that I want to pursue. And it's like, how? Oh my God. And anyway, this morning it was just a big aha that I'm not doing this alone and that it's not about me. Like, sure, it's my story or it's my physical voice that you hear or the connections that I might have with humans, but it's really about getting out of my way and letting. Now I had the epiphany. It was I am now choosing me. A lot of relationship problems. I don't even think motherhood was as bad as the relationship problems in motherhood, with my husband being the only support and him feeling like the enemy most of the time.
Man, that could be like a whole nother podcast with like your relationship once you have a kid. Like, oh my gosh, does it go through the ringer? Like, people don't talk about that enough at all.
Yeah. And I was viewing him as the enemy.
Mhm.
And I had an epiphany just recently, too, like a couple of months within the last month or two. And it was I saw him as the abuser, and I was seeing myself as the victim.
Mhm.
And I realized if I took the victim out of it, there was no more an abuser, there was no one else to blame, and there was only me.
Yep.
And then I stopped, like my nervous system instantly relaxed. And I think that was a deep healing that I've been carrying even through like prison, being a victim of the system. And, I'm still healing some of that, being a victim of my mother's emotional, mental abuse because she didn't have the healing or didn't do the healing or, I mean, I have so much compassion for her now, but it's like I have uncovered so many things and it really, so my I created a new Instagram handle and all of that working with you. And it's she became the way. It's not everybody and everything else. It's really about choosing ourselves. And I'm the she, and you're the she. And my hope is also to, not my hope, I'm doing it. I have a podcast ready to launch. I need some interviews. I've got to do the work. Now that my son is in preschool, I like finally have a couple of hours a day to like do some of this. And so I'm bringing my dreams to fruition, and she became the way. I became the way. You know, it's like when we choose ourselves over everything else in a healthy way. And if you're a mother and if you're a wife and you're a daughter and you have these relations, like all of that matters. But if we're not true to ourselves, then we're just living a lie.
Absolutely. This has just been so special. And I think that's a perfect spot to end because I want people to go find you on Instagram. I want them to go find She Becomes the Way or She Became the Way. And I'll put it in the show notes because I want you guys to keep your eyes on Misty and what she's doing because she is a Leo rising. She is meant to take the stage. And this has just been a taste, just a small little taste of her magic. And I want you guys to listen to her podcast and please reach out and connect with her. And yeah, is there anything, I don't know, last little bit you want to share with anyone, a word or message you want to leave them with? Because I think this has been really powerful. And yeah, this was just like the tip of the iceberg. I feel like this is like the appetizer for like your podcast for people to like go dive in.
So just a quick note on that. Right now, it's kind of a shell. I've got the, right? You're not going to get a lot if you go right now today. So, anyway, but I am in the works for that. You can definitely reach out to me on Instagram. She became the way. Yeah, my message just to end this on a beautiful, loving note is if you're hearing this, you're not done. It's not over. Um, we have today. And it's about choosing yourself and it's about choosing life. It's choosing to live because what else are we doing here? You are the way. Everything you need, you already have. Trust yourself and let's all just rise together, show up for each other, love one another, love yourself. I love you.
Hmm. We got to live our life sentences together with the
Yeah.
most love. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Everything to find Misty will be in the show notes. I can't wait to chat with you guys again next week. Thanks for being here. Be good to one another. I love you.